Welcome back, listener. You are listening to the Friday Council, your home for free thought and purposeful discussion on our human condition and all interesting aspects of modern living. If you share in our desire for new ideas and self-improvement, relax your body and contemplate alongside us. Now on the Friday Council.
Welcome back to the Friday Council podcast, episode 25 today.
Quarter
century, yeah. How was your last shower, Daniel?
My last shower was a warm shower, not cold shower. Epic, 2-song length, which is kind of long for me.
Do you listen to music in the shower?
Most of the time, yeah.
Fair enough.
Just music. Podcasts don't work in the shower really, but couple bangers, couple old school bangers. Can't remember what the bangers were, but in and out. Felt good even though it was a warm shower.
Nice.
Yeah.
You, David, how was your last shower?
I can't really remember. There was a good one. I can't remember if it was last night or 2 nights ago.
Yeah, you seen us the one you sent us the video of?
That was a good one.
Mm.
I think it was 2 days ago. That was raining.
Post workout.
Did I work? Yeah, I think. Did I work out on that day or not? I can't remember.
Every day.
They all blend in together as you get older.
Yours, Nev?
Yeah, last one was really nice. It's been cold the past 2 days, so it's been really hard to like hit the cold showers.
Yeah.
But started nice and steamy, like hot, almost too hot. But then you always got to finish on that like cold.
Finish on the cold. Yeah, I'm yet to adopt that skill.
We've got a heated towel rail now, which is real like first world things, but
bougie.
Yeah, and that helps like because as soon as you hop out of the cold shower, it's like hot towel done. It makes it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Anyway, getting back into it. Last episode we talked about hindsight, retrospection, and we're going to kind of piggyback into relationships, not necessarily just like hindsight, retrospection, but yeah, because that's a big topic, and particularly I guess as we have all gotten older, we can kind of see ourselves as how we've grown and how we adapt in terms of relationships, even platonic friendships with family, relationships with family, etc. So I think that's a good topic to hit this week.
Yeah, you end up learning a lot by default. I suppose what we're going to talk about now is going to be probably just good advice generally for like 5 or so years below us, because we're yet to obviously learn a whole lot, but we're definitely into the swing of adult relationships now. We know it's definitely not a middle. We've definitely transitioned from child friendships and relationships to adult ones, and they're different in a lot of ways. Do you have anything to kick us off?
Hit us off if you want.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll get straight into it. And this is a bit deep, maybe. But
good.
So I think this is an original thought. I googled this and nothing really came up. The only thing that came up was a religious metaphor, and it was something completely different in the context of it. So
I'm excited.
Okay, so I've come
to check you.
Yeah, right. No, do it because you'll see the first thing that come up was a religious thing. It's something to do with a relationship with God.
What you got?
It's a bit different. So I've come to the realization that many of my friendships all throughout my life, or at least since teenagehood, have been what I'm calling proxy friendships.
Cool word.
Proxy friendship.
Yeah, so
catchy.
It's where I have friends through other friends. So I always thought that I had like a good amount, and so it's similar to acquaintance, but a little bit different. So I'll give an example that Nav can relate to, because I have a good long-term friendship with Nav, but we used to go to a lot of parties together, and to be fair, you would fit in this category for a while. Like, I knew you. Every time I saw you at a party, we were good friends, but then I'd never see you again until the next party. I had a lot of friends like that.
Yeah.
So they were friends, and when I saw them at this party, which I was usually not invited to, Nav was invited to, and so they were friends by extension. They were proxy friends. So yeah, as I say, when I was around them at these parties, we got on like, we're best mates. But then you don't talk to them or see them again until the next party, and then once the party stops, that's it. So yeah,
Cool. Okay.
That's
Proxy
an interesting
friends.
one.
Has a good ring to it.
You could all.
Congrats.
I mean, some would say that's kind of like acquaintances.
Oh, that's what I said.
Yeah.
It's a similar
But
concept. So yeah, you could call it that. I think maybe it goes. It's a slightly deeper level to acquaintance, because I say like these are people. As I say like it was a fairly like intimate friendships, admittedly fueled by alcohol and other substances much of the time, but it wasn't.
They makes any friendship better though. No matter what level you are, adding alcohol is always going to be a good time with a
so
friend.
it's like
The closer you are, the better.
I feel
See,
like
I used to be the sober one at the party. Originally I would drink, but it's too much for me. Like I just didn't enjoy it. There was a couple of occasions it's just like nah. And then so I just sober drove, and often it would just pay for the petrol for the week, which was
right.
wee perk.
Yeah, nice.
But anyway,
But everyone who was drinking had fun. Anyway,
yeah,
sure.
I still had fun.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
perhaps where I can differentiate this from acquaintance is, and this is, I'll take this back a level, back to high school. So yeah, I had a group of friends, but I would never hang out. And to be fair, this almost applies to our relationship now, where we would only hang out as a group. So that's what I mean. It's like this proxy. So it's never we're one-on-ones. It's, I'm friends with this guy and this guy, and there might have been one guy in the group, probably another Daniel at the time, where he might have been the friend, and then through him I have these other friends where I would never hang out with them by myself, but we're friends, but only if we're in a group setting.
Yeah, and it would be awkward if that other person wasn't there.
Potentially, yes. Potentially it would be.
I can relate to
So,
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can. Yeah, I
Throughout
get
my
that.
life.
Yeah. So yeah, only.
Most people
So I think
would.
that's probably where the difference between acquaintance and it's like these guys are my friends, but we only hang out in a group setting. We don't hang out alone.
I agree. The biggest thing that comes to mind talking about like the friends at parties, you'd see them at parties and you'd always be like, oh, they'd be like good friends. You'd be like, oh, how you been, man?
Yeah.
Catch me up. Like, but you'd never hang out outside of parties.
Yeah.
And that brings me to, I think the most obvious to me anyway, difference between a childhood and an adult platonic relationship, and this carries over into like all things adult, is like being real intent, like kind of mathematically intentional about being friends, where you have to like actively organize
100%.
things, and
That's-
like anything now as an adult, you have to actively eat healthy. You can't just coast because shit will fall apart.
Exactly what I
Yeah.
sent in that text to my sister on New Year's Eve, when I said, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that you have to like organize things. You have to make time for things, spending time together, because it's the same. I had this thing with my sister. We would say, "Oh, we should catch up for coffee." Yeah, we should. And then it never happens. So that's why it's like we need to pencil this in on a concrete basis, sort of thing, or otherwise it doesn't happen.
I've had that too. Like even friendships, there's particular couple that I can think of where the intent has been there, like of trying to organize, but then almost like too much time passes to the point it's like you can't catch up on it, and if eventually like one of them moved away to another city, and it's like I look back on it fondly, like these are good times, and like if I had maybe put that effort in earlier, would the friendship still be the same? But in saying that, like that's a lesson that was quite hard for me to learn growing up, is over time you're just gonna lose touch, like lose friendships just naturally, like. And you may think like, oh, I've got all these people I know and can hang out with, but everyone just sort of goes their own way in life, and everyone has their own things they want to do. And if your friends enter into a relationship, then they've got another person, that they need to like work with too. And both of us, obviously, it's like it's not as easy as just calling your mate up. Or maybe for some people it is. I'm not really a huge spontaneous person, but you've really got to like actually organize. And then if you find, I can't do Mondays, I can only do eventually it's like, well, a month will pass and then you haven't caught up.
Yeah.
Also, I think it also brings to mind as well being like enjoying just hanging out by yourself, and I think that maybe possibly aren't people who feel that way have probably a better relationship with themselves than other people who like don't really enjoy or value that or try to get alone time, which I often do. But yeah, it's about that squeeze of time as you get older, and I feel like because of that, friendships would have looked and functioned way differently in like previous eras and also different cultures where there's not like the 40-hour work week. If you're like really poor and you're kind of working your work life is kind of like one thing. I imagine a friendship, you know, like a slum of India is like different as an adult even to what we have. It's like a very like scheduled, we have like very scheduled lives, and I think probably Western culture in general more so. So yeah, I don't know if adult friendships are drastically different in other cultures or not, but we just kind of take it for granted that it's just how friendships are these days. Like no one really has a lot of time. Yeah. Do you guys think that's just going to be normal, or to an extent it'll be normal, but in other cultures it might be different?
I don't know about other cultures, but I think we say, and look, again, I can only speak for myself, but I'm fortunate that I do have a lot of time. But even if we say that you're working a 40-hour work week, how many hours are there in a week? I mean, I can't do the 24 times 7 and then obviously take out your 8 hours for 7 or 8, whatever it is for sleep. You'll still be left with like a decent chunk of time. It's just one of these things where you just have to, you'll have to sacrifice time somewhere else. So that's it. You go garage sales on a Saturday morning. Well, that can be done with friends, of course, but whatever it is, you'll have all these things that occupy your time. Whereas, you might have to sacrifice that if you want to spend time with friends or whatever it is. I think it's just one of those things. You can't have everything in life, but if you want to make friendships a focus. I think most people can find the time. It just will be that they have to drop something else off.
I think you can say that pretty much about most things in terms of, it's like if you, and I used to make this excuse all the time, it's like, I just don't have time to like go to the gym or whatever. It's like, well, by the time I finish work, if I go straight after work, I'm probably going to be tired, or and then dinner's coming up, and then before you know it, it's like too late. But if you just got to make the time. If it's something important to you, you will factor it in, and then naturally you might have to, I don't know, lose one episode of
and that's a big one,
and that's a thing. Like that's hard because there's always these cool TV shows or whatever coming out,
more than you could ever watch.
More than you could ever watch, and there's always more seasons and then another season, and that was the thing for me. It's like, man, as much as I really enjoy watching like shows or especially the ones that get cult followings like Squid Game or whatever when that came out, it's like you gotta sacrifice these things if you actually want to achieve what you want to achieve. You make the time for that important
I think
things.
that's a big one. Social media, playing video games, like those are common downtime activities in Western society, and a lot of people spend hours doing those things a day, and that's what I mean. If you just reduce that, if you want to, that's it. You can probably find some time in there if you're saying, I want to spend an hour hanging out with friends instead of an hour playing video games or watching TV. Ultimately,
it's just that you don't care enough, and you're not being super honest with yourself.
Exactly.
You're like, and that's fine as well. You'd be like, I just don't like care. I'd just rather do other things. That's I'm sure everyone feels this way actually, but just like so like basically in love with life. I just want to do so many things. It's not that I have to prioritize them. I'm not.
Do you know
what I mean? I want to do so much,
and I think,
and I assume everyone's the same. But
I certainly relate, and I think that leads to a good point that I can make is that I think most people, including myself until pretty recently, and I'm still a work in progress, are poor at communicating what they want. And even if that's just communicating within their own mind, like that's it. If you get really intentional about what you want, and you communicate that, it can just make things a hell of a lot clearer for yourself and for your friends.
Yeah,
it's true.
But it could be a thing. I assume maybe it's just myself, but over analyzing like even the smallest of things.
Yeah.
To the point where you just get that like stage fright to actually implement it. So I mean, this is slightly unrelated, but like I was looking at something on Marketplace and I thought about, I was like, oh man, should I offer a low ball like number? Thinking, well, the worst they can say is no, but then oh man, I don't want to come across as rude. And then what if they like refuse to sell it to me because I've lowballed them when I actually want to, like, don't mind paying this little bit. And then it's eventually like, well, what's the worst they say?
Yeah.
So I offered a lowball. He's like, no. Okay, sweet, cool.
Yeah.
That's unrelated.
I know what you mean though.
It's a difficult one. I think we kind of it's easier when you have friends that have things in common.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, like David and I both enjoyed, because we had a little bit of like a falling out post high school, and then
high school.
end of high school towards high school.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that kind of helped was the fact that both of us really enjoyed sports. So it was like a way to like break the ice again, sort of thing. If you don't have friends, or if you don't have people that are interested in you, like, it is kind of harder to form more intentional relationships, because realistically, what can you do together? Maybe like go for a walk or sit down for a coffee or something.
Yeah, you need some context outside of both of you
Yeah.
to make like a memory.
I think, that, and again, that's highly relatable to some of my friendships which have dissipated over the past few years. And this is probably true again for lots of people. Like you're friends with these people at high school, and that's it. You probably never really did have much in common except for the fact that you went to the same high school and you both like partying and getting drunk or whatever, which is, pretty crappy, like interests, common shared interest. And then as you get older, that's it. You start realizing, geez, like, we don't really have anything in common anymore, and the only thing that holds this friendship together is just getting drunk and then rehashing essentially old memories. And I think that is true for so many people. Alcohol is the glue of the adult friendship, and they've been friends since whatever high school for so long that it's just like, these are my friends, and they never actually take a step back and be like, why are we friends? Again, it's just being held together by the fact that you go out and get wasted on a Friday night, and that's it. When you're wasted, you can be friends with anyone. Well, I certainly can. I think it's probably true for most people.
That's what I meant before.
I can be friends with someone who and certainly was, or certainly friendly with people who were the complete opposite of me. But when you're both wasted, like, it doesn't matter.
It seems like high school is like an obvious point that people refer back to when they're comparing friendships. It's like a very like line in the sand where your life changes. And do you think it could be the case that all the way up until high school you're like super socialized, and every day like, you're regularly meeting with other people, so it's hard to be an individual in high school, especially because all that peer pressure and all that, but any individuality is probably like instantly like dispersed out because you're mingling with so many people all the time. And then after you leave, I feel like you become more of an individual as you spend more time with yourself after high school, and that can lead to those friendships fading away when there's nothing actually in common. And as you become more time alone, developing yourself, you just realize what you like more yourself, and I think that's then the guide to finding adult friendships from there.
I definitely think that plays a factor in it. It does, but at the same time, I mean, there were like, I get what you're saying. There was less individuality, but there was still some, or at least because there were different groups at high school, right? Not everyone was just in one big group that did all the same thing. You had the people who hang out in the library that enjoyed reading and playing chess. You had the first 15 guys, or the good athletes. you know.
That's true. But then I would say also within those groups
Yeah.
as well, you're basically
You're
all
part
the
of a
same.
hive. Yeah. So there's less individuality, but there was some sort of a common interest, and you're definitely right. Once you leave high school, and it's just as you get older, you start figuring out what you want and all that, and I think it just also becomes much harder to relate to people who have significantly different interests or no shared common interests with you as you get older,
because the time as well, you're like, I'm wasting my time.
time,
I don't have time for this.
and probably just something to do with the brain. I think it becomes maybe more conservative or something. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but like when you're young, you can overlook a lot of these differences and stuff, and just find a way to make things work because you just you don't really care. But as you get older, those differences become more significant, and you're like, actually, I can't hang out with whatever. I can't.
Well, that makes it a challenge in itself now. Like even in the trying to form friends, I don't want that to like discourage people. Like if you don't have friends, that's a real bad way of saying it. But if you're aware that you don't really have any close friendships, which like I'd say most of us long for, even if you're an introvert, it does make it hard. So I guess really challenging yourself and figuring out like what you want in like a friendship or like finding common interests is probably the best antidote for that. I was just going to segue off that because we're talking about like high school, a factor that a lot of other people might not share the same experience. We all went to all boys schools, and that made it quite difficult for me moving on, like going to university when you're actually in the same like room or even tutorials or whatever with females. It was like, how do I like, and not coming across as like I'm just interested in every single girl. But it's like, how do you like communicate with females? Like probably a lot easier and I think I noticed that I had friends that went to co-ed schools.
I agree.
Just
I know
naturally
exactly how you felt.
like had friendships with others, and it was like, man, this is quite difficult. And so I think I was lucky in the fact that working in a place where you had like a good mixture really helped you come out of your shell and form those friendships.
That's true. It's all a single sex school is kind of a form of like sheltering, like a over parenting. It's like, it might be better for you short term where you can focus more and maybe progress a little faster in other ways, but it might socially retard you a little bit. But it's pretty easy to catch up. But people too.
If you look around, look around the world, like
it's pretty quick. I know the feeling you had, but then it's pretty quick to get over it. You're like,
I mean,
nothing wrong about.
And even I get it's different being in a classroom, but like even when you're at high school, it's not like you were never talking to girls. You went to the mall and you caught up with. I know it's
I didn't.
Okay,
I had very limited interaction with girls.
Both Nav and I had plenty of, it was common. You go to Northlands and meet up with the chicks from PAP, some from Marion and stuff like that. So
I think there was more in the later years of high school, like the first.
Probably from it was probably year 11.
I had 0.
Right, so I mean, I think most guys at school did that. Again, I appreciate that's definitely different to sitting in a class, and I know we've all heard or read like the stereotypes, the memes, like boys when they're all without girls are pigs, and then like they're on their best behavior when they're in a classroom. But I kind of like that. I think I wouldn't have liked missing out on that hyper massive toxic masculine experience of teenage boys in a pack, because you
never get it again, really. Maybe a sports team.
Maybe it's or military. Military is the other one. You always hear those stories about the military. Those guys and those
where they're
guys.
like so masculine, they get kind of gay.
And they do like they like wrestling and stuff like that. Not that wrestling's gay, but
it's like the Navy is like stereotypically kind of
Navy is got that stereotype.
Navy seamen.
But when boys get together and don't have that filter, I think we talked about it in a slightly different context, but like that real primitive behavior sort of, I think the context I'm talking about is like hazing and stuff like that. There's something about that. It's very primitive, but it feels good.
It feels real good, doesn't it?
To an extent, obviously, if it's done within reason.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know you guys, but like that kind of hazing mentality is real common if you grew up like playing video games. Like, I mean, if you played COD, like you'd go into a lobby and people would start, you know,
noob.
Yeah, calling you
that's
heaps of
as
crap.
G-rated
Or
as it gets,
even,
noob.
Yeah, you like play whatever other games and
I
they'd
remember,
start calling you out and things like that.
I used to get,
But it's fun. It's
it's
enjoyable.
fun. It's fun. Like I remember getting, in that sort of that context, there's a forum. It wasn't GP forums. It was this other forum, it was a real, it was at the time it was a relatively common gaming forum. It was like Icons Arena or something. This is like 2006 or 7, and I was on there and I'd ask, this is when I'm 12 or 13 something, and I'd ask these ridiculous questions, and I'd get hazed on there. Like one of the questions I remember, I was trying to overclock my graphics card, and I was like asking, oh, I can't get the overclock to stick, and then all these people are commenting like, oh, I use blue tack and stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, then what do you guys reckon about online relationships, romantic or platonic?
That's it.
Because that's completely new.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I used to think that could be fulfilling, and that's a lot of the relationships I've had have been online, on these forums, or a couple of dudes that I know on the internet. Nev kind of knows one of them, Ming. I've never met the guy, but I've been talking to him on the internet for more than a decade.
I had a friend like that as well.
Daniel,
playing games, and I met him for the first time. It was cool. Like, it was strange. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I used to think that could be fulfilling enough. I remember, I used to post on these forums, and, you'd build a bit of a reputation on there and stuff, and you just like, I'm the man, because that would be like being, a leader of the group in the real world. But yeah, as I've gotten older, I've realized that they can play a part, but they're not fulfilling.
I think the weirdness, because I've had a similar thing as well, and the weirdness I think comes from like when you're face to face naturally as a friend, and different relationships, romantic, platonic, are gonna like basically service different parts of they're gonna satisfy different needs that you have. You have certain friends for certain things, and then you have a romantic partner for certain things. But I feel like the online one was like bloke gaming one. You just like point or level up basically like real unbalanced like aspects of a friendship, and then so you've never seen face to face, so when you do, it's like that aspect's so underleveled, and you're like, but you know each other, how each other react to things and like anger and stuff, but you've never like hugged or touched each other, and so it's like that's I think where the weirdness feeling comes from. It's like so unbalanced thing. But what do you guys reckon, if you didn't have anything to say?
I was just gonna say with it, like, I don't know if that was also, so I'm getting absolutely demolished by like a mozzie just flying around. I think it's Batman. Anyway,
fists up.
Like using social media or whatever as like a tool can help, but I think it's kind of low bandwidth communication. So easy to like get across a message, flick your friend, whatever, Messenger, WhatsApp, whatever you use. But it just doesn't beat anything to do with like face to face. And it's a novelty, but I remember like high school, like the one up on when you were texting girls or whatever was like, oh, I'm gonna have a phone call now, and so like you'd be chatting like, oh, you're chatting on the phone, and it just felt like this new level of like, oh, I'm getting to know this person. But now it's like I just don't like the idea of like FaceTiming or video calling. It's just a real odd thing for me. I'm happy to like phone call like for a short thing, but it just doesn't beat face to face.
I'm pretty much exactly
I think most people
same.
would agree though, right? You reckon?
I don't know. I don't know if most. I think there'll be a decent portion, but I think there is also, and maybe especially and then
some people like it better, you reckon? FaceTime?
Oh, definitely. Or maybe not specifically FaceTiming, but texting. Because that used to be me.
Text, don't call.
Yeah, that used to be me, because that was a way of dealing with whatever anxieties that I was feeling. It was, it's so much easier to communicate via text because you feel way less vulnerable. So, but that's like a really dangerous habit to get into, because then,
you lose
because the
so
vulnerability
much,
is
though.
where you connect from anyway,
exactly,
isn't it?
and then
It's
like
kind of a
that's
self-own.
it is a self-own, because it kept getting, I remember this really good-looking chick that I talked to, that I talked to on Facebook before I ever met her, and got to know her really well. But then I was just so scared to meet her. So it becomes, and then that's it. If you cannot like man up and meet them, man up's not the right term. Maybe if you can't whatever, find the courage to go and meet these people in real life, eventually it's just going to fizzle out, because most other people, unless you're talking to someone who's equally like anxious or whatever, got their own issues where they are quite comfortable just staying on the internet or via text, they'll eventually want to meet up, and if you don't meet up, they're going to lose interest in you. And I had that happen so many times, and I guess I just didn't understand that at the time, why I was doing that. I understand that now. It's because I was super anxious. And the problem is, if you feed into that, you never overcome the anxiety, it becomes like a crutch. But
I also think on top of that, you just lose so much in just messaging. Like, just the fact of like tone of voice is a real important one.
Sarcasm's almost impossible.
Yeah, so like, how do you pick up on that? One, I don't know, missed comma or something can change a sentence. And even now, like, I'm noticing if I'm talking to my wife, like by message, like just a straight sentence to the point, like, might come across as like passive aggressive. Whereas no, I'm just telling you, you can't communicate as well as you would if you were at bare minimum like talking or a voice message or whatever. Like, face to face is king, and it's hard. Like, coming out of pandemic life, there's even that push now. People don't want to go back to the office, or like, which I understand, like their freedom, but it's just hard to communicate properly.
You reminded me, speaking of like online messaging relationships and things being taken out of context. One, sarcasm is almost impossible and is a real good way of flirting. I remember, I'd find that I'd try to do it often. So I think if you're being sarcastic with someone, you're basically creating like an inside joke with them. You're like, we both know that it's not what I mean. But which is, I think, a very effective flirting tool. But you can't do it. And secondly, the people taking, in my experience, it's mostly been female. The female brain seems to like interpret things, and like, obviously they're like maybe more social, so they're like always trying to figure out what the hidden meanings were like socially, and it's been cause for so much frustration. I don't know how many times I've had to say to females in my life, like, no, it's literally just what I meant. I didn't mean anything else. That I meant exactly what I said, which is like, I will be home at 4, full stop. Not being passive aggressive, which is kind of It seems like I feel kind of sorry for them sometimes, but guys will do it too. Anyone who's like constantly over analyzing messages like that, it must suck, because I'm sure especially if they're your friend or a loved one, they're not gonna. And if they're mature or a decent person, they're not going to be intentionally like being passive aggressive on.
I mean, I had the
it's
same
childish
thing today. Like, I was waiting for wife to come home from the mall shopping, and we were going to go out for a coffee.
Got him.
Nice.
Got the mosquito.
Thank goodness. We were going out for a coffee, and I was like, oh yeah, like she was sending me pictures of things she wanted, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's all good, like, I'm not that interested. But she's like, oh, you just seem flat. I'm like, no, I would like for you to come home ASAP so we can go out and hang out. I prefer to like talk to you in person. But to her it was like, relatable. He's not interested. He doesn't care. It's like, no, just now's not the time for this.
Relatable. Relatable. The online messaging is always, for me, platonic or romantic, has been a real drag. Still to this day, like, it doesn't matter who it is. You guys, like, I find it very difficult to type. Maybe it's like an ADHD attention thing that
no, it's not.
No, you like sending long.
Well, I used to.
I mean, like a TikTok shortening, neurotypical attention spans. Like, I can't be bothered typing. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean, and to be fair, I am like a bit like that now. I don't like discussing deep conversations. Like sometimes you might throw in like an article or something that's it's like something
I know what
that's
you mean.
way better to talk
or when
about
you send me
in
an
person.
article, it's like I'm thinking all sorts, but I can't be fucked.
Exactly, it's just way
translate.
easier and way more satisfying to talk about it in person. So I agree. I like keeping messages to just like banter. Logistics, like we'll meet up at this time, whatever, and then go deeper once we're in person.
I found like this is maybe just me, but for those who still use Snapchat, like I just find it one of those cool things that even if it's superficial, there's always like a little bit of context behind, or even look at it from a perspective like if you've got friends and you're talking about the banter and the hazing sort of thing, like it's so easy just to like almost instantly make memes for each other.
Well, it's higher bandwidth because you can see it's got a visual aspect.
It's got the visual aspect.
I think Snapchat's perfect. I mean, it's the social media that I use most. Well, I mean, like Messenger's sort of your core, but like Snapchat's the one for like
It really goes to show how much more communication is involved in just a face, like in a face.
Yeah, and it doesn't
you can
even
say
have to be a
words.
face.
It doesn't have to.
you could just be like a random thing.
Whatever, like my videos last night.
Yeah.
High bandwidth.
Well, also, I think that'd be a generational thing as well. I think we'll be able to sense tonality from what has been. If it's just the picture of a floor is different from if they've taken the effort to take a picture of something random like up here versus a face versus a video.
Like I think recording yourself like hopping into the hot shower.
I think
it's a real it's what I think is closest to the perfect medium for you can get it can be short and sweet and not very meaningful, or you can convey some sort of meaning
or if you just want to send dick pics, that's up to you. But
do that on Messenger, man.
Yeah, you can do that. That's true. You can actually send private photos. But I think it's like awesome.
Definitely my favorite.
It's one of the coolest things as my personal like experience. I was gonna say, should we touch base particularly on like more I want to say intimate, it's not the right word, but like relationships of the past.
Sure.
Or sorry,
no, you finish what you were saying.
No, I was.
Are you meaning romantic?
To finish a sentence. I thought that's where you were.
Yeah.
So, but what did you say? I didn't hear the end of your sentence. Did you say something about in the past?
Like learning. I guess what I'm trying to say from that is I was thinking earlier in the week because I've only ever had one like proper long-term relationship outside of my wife.
Never had any.
And I just I was just dwelling on like thinking about how it like ended, and even post when it ended, just like how cringe I was, like in the whole like heartbroken sort of way, like oh man, like why did I do these things to like
being needy, man,
attention seeking,
needy. I've never had a long-term relationship, but I've had plenty of flings, whatever you want to call them, and then like inevitably it fizzles out, and usually I'm the one that's left. Not like I'm the one who wants it to keep going, and it hasn't. And then you become super needy.
Why aren't you messaging me back?
Oh man, it's brutal. I'm so glad that I can like recognize those things now. And like those are, if you want any hope of rekindling the magic, you have to override those like super needy like message back and it's spamming and all of that and like self-pity, and you just have to be like Chad.
Uh,
I can't help do you say Chad? I can't help but think about the alpha versus beta, like as like almost retarded as those words have become these days and like memed. I mean, being needy and like that is definitely a beta vibe, and I don't think women like.
No, that's exactly it. As say, the things that you feel
we all did it.
Inclined. Yeah, you feel inclined. You think it's like the right thing to do is to like put in 100 times more effort and be like message spamming and all of this. it's the exact opposite of
It's
what
awful.
you should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're conveying that you've got like nothing else going on in your life.
And it's also, and in the opposite of that, even if you are in a relationship before it's ended or whatever,
Yeah.
it's almost, it also brings to mind the probably pretty outdated and cancelable slogan now of the treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen.
Yeah, I
It
know.
bleeds
yeah.
over where you
And
like
that-
don't
yeah.
you don't
And
like
that-
do anything.
yeah,
You don't
that's-
contact them
yeah,
at all.
So hard to do, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done when I was younger. I did that successfully, and yeah, it's a real murky one
Yeah. It doesn't really hold, but it's
because
is a balance, that middle ground day where it's like
yeah, I think it just has to be a middle ground. Like, don't intentionally be an asshole. Actively, because that's it. The classic case of it, and this is how I did it. I manipulated it. I didn't manipulate it like fully, but getting pictures with other girls and then like uploading them as a Snapchat story. That's a real that's a trigger. And all of a sudden, I'm getting messages from the girl that I knew what I was doing. But some people take that to extremes, right? Like they will go out and not just take pictures with girls. They'll like use girls like whatever sexually intimately as just to like get back, and then that's really bad.
So
I think all of it is
childish.
bad. Even what I was doing is bad. I did that when I was like 21, 22.
disclaimer. It's all bad.
Disclaimer. I think the right way to deal with it is don't be needy, but don't be an asshole. Just go and do something else with your life. Start going to the gym.
Yeah.
Go overseas. Whatever. Go traveling. Start a new project. Just like do something productive. Get a purpose, and just like focus on yourself and be better yourself. And then it's like the
Andrew
best
Tate
example,
is smiling in his jail cell right now.
the best example that I can give is the movie Limitless. Have you seen that?
I can't
No,
say
is it the
that.
drug one?
Yeah. So he's like a deadbeat, unemployed writer, and he's got like a really hot missus that's got a good job and stuff, and she's like propping him up, and eventually she gets like sick of his shit. And then he goes and takes this supposed super drug, and then he becomes like learns all these different languages, like comes to like the best stock trader in the world, comes to like like extreme socialite, just reinvents himself, and then all of a sudden she's interested in him again. He did that. Obviously it's a movie, so it's not real, but he didn't like try and get back at her. He just went out and improved his
Did
life,
his own thing.
and then that's the way to do it. Just go out and improve your life, enrich your life, and then if it's meant to be,
Epic.
Yeah, I've come stumbled across just every now and again the whole idea of like cheating. If someone's been like cheated on, the top comment I've always seen is like, "Well, you know what to do now, bro," and it's like implying go to the gym, like work on yourself.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done.
It's
It's easier said than done. Like a
Yeah.
lot of it is a big mindset shift and having to like change your approach.
because it's hard. That's the easy thing is to wallow.
Yeah.
Self-pity.
It feels good, like
because-
feeling anger and like
Yeah,
just letting your
and
anger
because
smash
I
things feels good.
It's one of the worst
Wallowing
feelings
feels
in the
good
world.
too.
That feeling of when the female's lost interest in you, and you're still like, because then you're more interested in her than you ever were before, because she's hard to get and all of that sort of thing. So it's extra hard to go out and do things that are like hard, like go to the gym and stuff like that, because you feel like absolute shit. But you just have to do it.
Yeah, it's the short-term pleasure for us, short-term suffering for long-term
Yeah, it's
gain
just like,
there,
so
or the
I'm,
reverse.
like,
If you're
so
wallowing,
easy to just
short-term
sit there
pleasure,
and-
long-term suffering.
You gotta say.
Now I'm going to change the subject.
Oh, that's okay. They made me think. There's like a couple of times because you were talking about David, like in like the past that you like taking photos with other girls to like create attention and yeah.
Very effective.
Whereas I've felt that on the opposite spectrum, where like after relationship, I had mutual friends. She was living with them at the time, so naturally they all just sort of hung out because location wise it was more. And I'd seen like Saturday night, and then I'd see like Snapchat stories of like them all hanging out, and it's like, man, like this is
That's a double whammy.
yeah, it's like
when
this
your
isn't
other friends
fair.
as well.
Like they were our friends, and now all of a sudden, like I'm getting exiled, and like, it's a hard thing at the time. And now it's easy to kind of look back on it, just like whatever. But it took a real big approach to actually just, I like deleted them all off Snapchat. It was like a whole out of sight, out of mind thing, because if you're just constantly absorbed in, you know, what's going on, it's like brings you to like a depth that becomes a lot harder to get out of. So I don't know if that works for a lot of people or not.
I think it's probably pretty relatable.
Found that quite like,
probably very relatable.
Easiest way.
There's nothing worse than seeing.
Yeah,
especially if if you're on the receiving end, you see like the girl that you like with a bunch of other dudes.
That's the worst.
That's brutal feeling.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask what you guys thought about, in terms of relationships, about being different, acting differently around different people. And I just want to say, as an example, like I remember, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, 3 ago, it clicked that, but suddenly became aware that certain friends are much different with their girlfriends than they are around their guy friends. And of all the starkest contrasts of friends that I had observed are no longer with those girlfriends. And so I'm thinking, I think you ideally, to a certain extent, there's always going to be a boring middle ground, but you should be you need to be pretty much the same person you are with a romantic partner. In my experience, is how it works, as you are with your guy friends. And when you can obviously see your guy friend like self-censoring in front of, I mean, like I said, there's going to be things I say around you guys that I don't say around Taylor, but
double standards.
but it's just, but she knows I say them, but she just like doesn't find them funny or whatever.
I'm with you on that.
But it's going to come down to, again, being just like open and transparent with your romantic partner. Like, hey, look, sometimes I say these naughty words. Like, basically deal with it.
I mean, that's a good point you've actually made, because I think I've done that in the past, where it's like you're trying to introduce, your mates to a girl. Well, I'd say now it's my wife, but there's almost that that filter where it's like, oh, I don't know if I can say this, whereas I would get away with saying it with the boys, because it's just like locker room talk.
To what extent, do you guys think you should? I think you should need to be pretty much. I'm lucky enough maybe to be pretty much, I think, the same, because I got instantly reflective. I was like, oh God, how different am I? And I was quite happy with the level of consistency across relationships.
I'm now pretty much the same. Like, for the most part, it's the same. I not shying away from, I don't know, saying controversial things or like thoughts of opinion. But then I think the line where maybe it's just like certain topics you just don't want to go down that road with partner, like, and one of them is probably politics, and that's just you've got to draw the line on things where you're like, this is actually beneficial. And so that's not like saying, no, I'm hiding my political thoughts from you, but it's just recognizing, like, well, everything else we've got going on is good, but if we talk about this, it's just going to be detrimental. And there's been like David and I will just probably send like the stupidest, dumbest memes and photos to each other, which she just wouldn't understand or like comprehend. So it's like,
that's kind of different. That's
I guess that's different. Like, I'll just whip my phone out. She, what are you doing? I'm just sending you this photo because it's kind of funny, like an inside joke.
It's not as if you, and it's like it's not as if you're hiding that part from your partner. You're just like, she doesn't, she won't get it or care.
I'd like to think I'm pretty similar.
Yeah. Can you guys think of examples where you've seen friends, or all of a sudden they get a new girlfriend maybe and they change, which is kind of a classic.
I think if it changes for the good or not.
Yeah, because I think that's a good point.
Because sometimes for some people it might just take like a perspective of, and this is brought to mind a couple of friends. Like, I know one person, for example, who started dating this girl and pretty much remains the same. Like, no interest, just wants to play games, and she.
I know who it is.
Yeah, she'll just feed into that. Like, but then I've had other friends that meet a girl and all of a sudden they want to start like changing for the better, like working on themselves, or start like putting in the effort to make money and be successful and do those sort of things. So it's contextual.
That's a good point, because the classic, whether it's coming from your partner or your friends, they're like, you've changed, man. It's like pretty brutal to hear. But if you're happy with the changes, if you're like, no, I'm getting better, then I think that's probably in all circumstances going to be preferable, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, if you're town every weekend, getting in 1-ounce fights in town every weekend, I've been like, you've changed, man, because you're not longer
you're not
doing
going
that.
out to town.
It's pretty obvious. Yeah, that's a pretty clear example, but there's probably a lot more nuanced examples out there, but that's definitely a positive thing.
I think, well, that's one thing for me. It's like from past relationship to new relationship, like, it's more like I know that back then I just didn't have the same work ethic, or just wasn't interested in putting in the hours to work hard and do X, Y, Z. And now it's like, no, I've realized the importance of time. You want to achieve, or you want to learn something, or you've got to put the manpower and the hours into it. And often having someone who actually supports you in that, as opposed to dragging you away, is also another important thing.
Yep. I'll ask you guys another question.
Go for it.
Continue on. What's you guys' thoughts on, might be too broad, changing relationships as you grow with parents and family, but probably just parents? I think we all have a similar trend, and I think which probably indicates that it's a similar trend for all guys, at least, as they come into their late 20s, where you basically kind of realizing your parents' faults and low-key get sick of it sometimes, depending on how long you... I'm not implying anything. We all felt the same way.
Yeah,
but
some of the time, all the time.
Yeah. If we could frame this maybe as some advice, or letting 20-year-olds or so know, this is probably going to happen. This is probably going to end up how you're feeling.
Yeah.
We still love our parents, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
You got to say yes. You got to say yes right now.
I do, but
it's a different kind of love.
It's a different kind. It's like, not that I have a partner, but if I had a partner, you love them, you want to be around them as much as possible, sort of thing. Yeah, with your parents, it's like you love them, but you want to see them here or there. You don't want to be around them all the time, sort of thing. Yeah, it's a different sort of love. It's messy. I think families, as I get older, I realize that families are very messy, because I think there's this expectation that because you're blood related, that you should, be tight knit, sort of thing. Where it's like you can, it's like if you think about it, we're saying you're not going to be, in all likelihood, stay friends with people who are vastly different to you, especially if they're vastly different in negative ways. But there's an expectation within your family that you stay family, because if you're family, even though you can be vastly different people,
that must come because on average you're more likely going to be more similar to your family members. But that's the thing with averages. That's like,
probably, and to a certain extent, or certainly to a certain age. I think it's problematic in many cases if you're still, unless you like want to be, but if you're like just still acting like whatever your parents or whatever your family's acted when you're an adult, just because this is the way it's done, sort of thing.
It must be like an evolutionary reason for that wanting to like leave the nest thing and go.
Well, that's
explore.
what I was going to say. Like, and I know it's a different. It may not be exactly applicable to humans, but there's plenty of other species that when you become a certain age that you can fend for yourself. That's it.
You never see them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's true.
And I
Never thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any reason that can't be applicable. And I mean, it is because you do hear about.
It can be. Yeah. If you don't want to.
It can be. I don't necessarily know that it should be perceived. I mean, again, it's all I think there's a happy medium where you're on good. You can contact your fam when you want to, but if you've got nothing in common with them, you shouldn't feel pressured to see them all the time.
That's fair enough.
I just want to say, I think there's two things that come to mind when you guys are talking. One of them being culture. So Western culture, probably not so much like the importance of families.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's important to remember.
Yeah, like,
culture, we're like so steeped in it. It's so hard to see.
I mean, I'm going to say, like, I think Pacific Island culture is quite a big thing where families all live, like, even extended families.
I think that's terrible. it is. Okay. No, seriously, if you look at...
What would be terrible for you?
Probably, no. You seriously...
How you are now.
If you look at that, if you look at, like, the statistics, like, for Pacifica and for Maori, for suicide... They're way higher, and a lot of that is to do with the extreme pressures, especially for Pacific Islanders, on Pacific Island males, the pressure that's put on them to essentially be a slave to their family. I think in Samoa, men, once they become 50, they just stop working and they expect their sons to all of a sudden...
I think probably not a good...
I think I agree. I agree with everything you're saying, but I also wonder how much of that, because that's their culture from before they're living in this. That culture's kind of been just like aggressively transplanted, and they've kept that bit, but everything else is like so different. Like island life is so different to our our scheduled work weeks and retirement.
I don't know if there's a lens as well. Like I think because probably both of us, like particularly living at home till later years, is there's a point where it's like I'm ready to move out, and anything or everything that your parents say to you is just like, oh my gosh, eye roll sort of thing. But then I also know people who no, that's not a dig or anything. No, but like
why do you say that? Now it seems like
it's
a dig.
the same for me too. I'm only within leaving the house within 2 years.
Yeah.
But then I know like some friends who have just really close relationships with their family, and they get along, even to the point like hugging your mum and your dad every day. Like to me, it's like, man, that's like
not a thing.
Not
in
a
my
thing.
family.
Yeah,
really
wouldn't really do that unless it's like maybe mum, but like I can't remember the last time I hugged my dad, which is probably a bad thing.
Yeah,
because I think it's all different. Taylor's family are all kisses on the lips, like for the whole family, and that was weird for me. Yeah,
I come
really.
Yeah, I come from
strange.
Now I look forward to Taylor's auntie's kisses on the lips.
Yeah, and I think like
fair enough.
All of these
grandma's
things, we should like throw in. Of course, they're very nuanced, and there's no black and white. So again, looking back to what I said about other cultures with that hive mentality. Yeah, I'm sure that there can be cases, and there will be cases where people actively enjoy that, and it can work successfully. But I think there's certainly for a statistically significant portion of children that grow up in that sort of hive mentality that they want to go out and forge their own life, and they are pulled back in. What are you doing? You can't like do this. You can't leave. You can't move out to another country. You have to you're betraying your family. That's
I've heard that on a lot of
a lot
of anecdotes.
Rubbish. That's terrible. I had
that happen to me, even just wanting to move out. Like, point where I thought
about... How could you do this to us?
No, not necessarily that, but it was like, I felt ready. Obviously, I don't know, maybe I wasn't, and it was a mother's hindsight.
No, but instinct. That's the thing.
Maybe.
So I'm into the point where I'm trying to, wait for the perfect moment, but maybe I just have to take the leap before the perfect moment, and you'll figure it out, even if it's not the perfect
way. You kind of just adapt anyway.
Exactly. That's good when you adapt, because you learn new skills and you feel like you've accomplished things like that. I think that crab in a bucket mentality in families can be very toxic.
I think there's also, to me, like an infinite number of like dubs you can give yourself. Just like there's so many things you could learn, and I don't know, if you take joy in the mundane and small things, like bought a power drill for the first time and learn how to screw something in, it's like, man, that's like, you learn, or you want to learn to cook a new meal, like, well, there's how many different recipes you could learn, like just numerous infinite amount of dubs you can take. I guess I'll just quickly go back when I thought I was ready to move out, and like the backlash I got was, you're going to find it hard. Like, you don't realize how many things you have to pay for. And I do realize that now, having bought a house. But at the
It's coming
time,
from a fear from them.
yeah,
right?
I think it's easy to see that now. But man, I probably missed out on heaps of like fun things I could have
Yeah,
done, and freedom, and
exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
We have the financial like restriction though as well,
Yeah.
where that's basically the only thing that I imagine stopped most of
I
people
think
who
for me
stayed
it
at home
was,
for
it
longer.
was the finance.
That's got to be the
financial thing.
only reason. Otherwise, sure, flatting sounds fun as with your friends.
No,
Wow.
I was never really appealed
Oh,
to
really?
me, but that's because of my own sort of quirks.
Right,
Not
right.
good. Not good.
See, I was just too stingy. I was like, it just makes no
Yeah,
sense.
no.
Oh,
financially
you
to
know,
do
like
it.
no one wants
I
to
wouldn't-
clean the toilet of
wouldn't
your
like-
mates. Been shitting.
It's like
Toilets are self-cleaning. That's what
sleeping
the
in
button's
same
for.
tent.
Right.
I don't like that. I wouldn't like even obviously you'd have your own room, but I'm not. Yeah, I don't like sharing spaces with people and stuff like that. So that's my reason.
Honestly, think maybe for you just need to buy like a
Oh,
steel container and just put some windows in it, and you'll be sweet.
yeah,
like a
no,
bunker.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. No, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
But yeah, no, I think my parents aren't maybe to that extent, but a similar vein where, yeah, I think at some point it becomes detrimental when your parents, I think, yeah, probably enabling is the right term. They enable you to skirt your responsibilities because that, yeah, with that mentality, oh, it's a tough world out there. You can just, stay here and you'll be safe and we'll look after you. But it's like at some point you have to, become an adult.
I think maybe because you guys have slightly older parents than most our ages, slightly older, not that much
Yeah.
older. So you might be seeing a little bit of the future. Because I feel like now I'm seeing, I'm seeing them slowly start to fall into like deeper and deeper patterns that aren't healthy and think and just like and observing their relationship together. I'm like, oh, this is getting a bit tense. Like you need to still keep growing and learning and getting better. And
it's sad. I witnessed that, and you try and be a beacon of hope and guide the way, but it just it doesn't work. But I think the other thing with family is, if you think about it, do you know your great grandparents?
no,
Do you care about them?
they don't cross my mind either,
Exactly,
really, yeah.
and that's it. Once you get
I'm
like
thankful, I guess, but
two generations away, no one gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
You're gone. I have no idea who my great grandparents were,
it's true.
let alone my great grandparents. And that's it. And then once your grandparents die, after a while you stop thinking about them. You don't give a shit about them. Like there is this thing.
Might not be quite the right word, but I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Like it's not that you don't give a shit.
I
It's
think
just
it
that you
is,
don't,
if you're brutally honest. I don't give a
or it doesn't
Oh.
occupy time in my mind.
yeah, it takes up less time. Like, I mean,
I'm more worried about like what's paying, finding a way to pay the bills than I am thinking about my
like
dead
life goes on.
grandparents.
well,
Yeah.
I think maybe that's just the thing with time.
It
like,
is.
the
It's
whole
the thing, yeah.
the whole like time heals all wounds thing.
you get over it. That's it.
You get over it, but like,
So
yeah, I don't know, because that's a different thing to, I guess, the whole grief aspect, which is another topic. But having, I guess, my uncle pass away, unexpected sort of thing, and it's all of a sudden you get thrown. It's like, wow, okay, all these jokes and things you used to do and hang out, like when you come over, it's like you just don't have that anymore. Obviously, yeah, I'm not thinking about him every day, but like every now and again, it'll pop into your mind, and it's just a bit like, oh man, sucks. Like,
I think I know exactly what you mean, but I would use different words.
there's just the point that I was making with that is, again, like there's this this expectation that because you're family that you have to be stand up for one, stick together sort of thing. But that's what I mean, like family die and you forget about them for the most part pretty quickly afterwards. So
it's a pretty stoic way of looking at it, I guess.
I think it maybe, but I think it's pretty accurate. I think even like when your parents die, you'll be very upset at first, but better example would be if you ask your parents about their parents who are, my parents' parents are dead. it's not affecting their life anymore. They've never, as far as I'm aware, visited their grave because it's in another city. But that's what I mean. It'd be too much of a pain in the ass to go to Dunedin to visit a grave, right? It's not worth your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. They'll pop into your. And I guess the point that
it's the truth. It might sound brutal, but that is the truth.
It is. And Alex Hormozy summed it up a bit more nicer than I did. It's something like once you're 3 generations gone, no one gives a shit about you. You're gone.
Definitely
You're
free.
erased. You're just a letter on a grave.
Maybe unless you left like an
unless
legacy.
You're an exception. Which
but
maybe
then you'll be so far removed. Like you'll be like a child can conceptually understand. Like, my great grandfather owned a lot of money, but it's meaningless.
Maybe someone like Edmund Hillary, they're a national icon.
Yeah.
They might have a legacy that. But his point, Alex Hormozy's point, is that stop letting your trivial worries get in the way of your life. And I think just to elaborate on that a little further, it's so don't let your family hold you back because they're your family. You don't need they're just people at the end of the day.
It's getting back to the thing the you've changed thing. If it's for the better, then it's probably good.
And that is what I mean. I'm reaching that sort of point where you just have so much difference with your parents, in particular in my case, my parents, because I'm still living with them, which is again my responsibility. It's very hard to be compatible. So you can love them
as well. Like I said as well, they're kind of going down a downward trajectory in a way where their mental the mental abilities are slowly starting to decline, and they just don't have as much effort to be fresh and learning new things, which is fair enough. We'll all be the same.
I'm just thinking to go back to the original question you said, before moving out, notice patterns of frustration myself, just I'm ready to move out, move on, getting annoyed with what parents would say. Having now moved out and been living away, there is for me a desire to still see them, not all the time, but after a while, I know I need to see my parents, and that maybe that's just because naturally the relationship's gotten better. So when you do see them, unless you're your brother, but you're actually intentional about what you're talking about. They're probably interested in what you're getting up to and those sort of things. They're not they don't have as much of a say on your life, but you're still willing to open up to them because I don't know, maybe it's just they're still
I guess
my parents.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah, we're different for different families.
But again, I can't comment on that because I haven't left the home, so I don't know what the future will hold.
It's good. Good different perspective.
We'll have a big sesh when you do.
But with siblings in my family, there's siblings in my family that I don't have much in common with, and you see them at the family events, I don't even looking ahead, I don't see myself participating in all those family events. It's mainly because the family events are at the house that I'm living in, and that it's just, and I guess that's a good thing. In my family, there isn't a huge expectation that you need to some people can view that negatively, that there's not a big emphasis on staying as a family unit.
You got to be careful not to impose your own specific family's values on other people. You saying you haven't hugged your dad in a long time is strange to me, but it doesn't mean anything.
That's an interesting point, and that gets my sister, because I was saying I don't come from a family. We don't say that we love each other. We don't hug. We don't kiss. We don't talk about our feelings.
Yeah, right. But that's normal. I remember some kids at high school were real open about sexual stuff. No, talking about banging girls and stuff in front of their parents, and that is weird to me. But it's fine, I guess.
That bothers my sister because she wishes that we did more of that stuff. And I'm getting to a point where I'm open for the most part, talking about my feelings and stuff in a way that I didn't used to be able to do. But in my family, there's no emphasis on that sort of stuff. So to me, that's not a problem. It doesn't bother me. I don't want that to change because I'm happy. I just pretty much want to be an independent unit. But to others, they might be like, man, I feel so unloved because we're not.
You're changing for the better, and you're happy with where you're going. So I'm the same.
I think, I guess, I mean, now being married, and you kind of you pick and choose
Yeah.
what you want from each of your families. So, I mean, one it might be like, okay, we'll make a rule in our household now if we're forming our own family that we'll visit the in-laws or whatever, the parents, once every week or fortnight. Or we're going to start, like, if we're having kids, we're going to, give them hugs and stuff because you want that to continue. You can choose the things that you want to do in your own household.
That's got to be the fun of it, yeah.
Which is probably what the thing that I
perfect human.
kind of look forward to, I guess, in wanting to have kids eventually. But there's definitely things I will weed out and don't want to take. And it's like, no, I'm cutting it there. The buck stops here with my family.
And for all of us as well, there'll be heaps, if not majority, that we don't even realize that we're going to pass on, unless we do like heaps of inner work.
That's where I was going to take that back to, like, people who don't. They become trapped and they just become their parents. And
it's the classic, isn't it?
And
you've become your mother.
Oh, and I see that with one sibling in my family in particular, becoming very much like one of my parents, and they have a very close relationship, still not lovey-dovey, but they're in constant communication, sort of thing. But that's because, and then it's, to me, that it's just not for me, because it's like you're limiting like the potential of your life because you're just following in our parents' footsteps. So you're capping yourself.
Yeah.
You're just gonna do all the same shit that they did, and it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
I mean, if you liked exactly what they did,
but I think that's where I was gonna go. I would say a lot of people might just get stuck in that and not realize that you can explore. There's a big world out there, and there's a lot of different ways of doing things, like we touched on last week, seeking different influences.
It can be like a trap.
Exactly.
And I think I've noticed in my wife, sometimes even decisions like we'll make together, she's still like, I think there's a difference between talking to your parents for advice, but it's almost like not making the decision based on what the parents would think. So I'll share it with you guys now. We're getting a dog next week.
And your parents would,
and they're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But it's like, and I have to tell them,
exactly
like,
the same.
You don't have to, it doesn't matter what they think. You don't have to break it to them.
That's what that's like anyway. That's a great example of where like family becomes like this.
They hold you back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I gave that example, my sister wanting to become a teacher. Oh no, don't do that. It's very stressful. The pay is not great. All of that sort of stuff. And like I hear my parents saying like, oh, like make sure that you get advice for us when you buy a house and stuff. I was like, well, I'm not going to get advice from you because you've made average decisions with houses. I'll get advice from someone who's done awesome with houses.
It's like there's two meanings to the metaphor of your family being an anchor, where they're like they hold you back for one hand, but they also like are a place for stability and security that you can come back to. And safety. I suppose
that's a really good way of putting
analogy.
It. Yeah. Thanks. And I think that's I guess that's it. In times of crisis, we naturally seek out safety. Whether that be family or familiar friends, whatever.
That I suppose.
But that's where that can also become a trap. Then is you go back seeking comfort, and then you get caught. Like a good example of this, would be my brother. One of my brothers. He moved out, went flatting with his mates in his 20s. And then his mate got married and said, you've got to leave, sort of thing now. And then he came back and lived with my parents, and then he lived there for, I don't know, like another 5 years or something. So it's like going backwards, but it was like that safety net. Whereas
You'll
the
always
move
have
there,
a home in your parents' house.
Yeah. Whereas the move there is, okay, now I need to go out and forge my own way, sort of thing. So that's where I'd say that safe net, maybe for temporary for like a month until you find other accommodation. That's cool. That's healthy. Good to know that you for a temporary, very temporary thing. But then if it's just this open ended, come back and then you fall back into old patterns and then it's stunting you if you're going backwards.
That is an opinion though of how long and how how much you should use a safety.
Yeah, I think
I suppose it's a matter of opinion. There's no right. There's no objective.
Yeah, I think most people intuitively know, right? If you're
everyone would differ though.
It's probably also an awareness. Like, I'm not speaking for him, but if it was me, like knowing the fact that okay, I'm going back to live with my parents as a adult, like that would annoy the heck out of me. It's like, okay, I need to find something.
Yeah.
Whereas for others, they might be, okay, cool, I can just coast for a bit.
Yeah. That's the problem.
And that's when you start realizing, man, that's probably terrible behavior. You got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was a thing for me as well, like living at home. I knew I had it pretty good. I was coasting, but then there was a switch that flicked where it's like, okay, I actually need to start using this as like a tool to, say, like properly save, like, because I'm not going to have this ever again when I move out. So I guess it's how you look at how you.
Yeah, it should be used as a launch pad, not now I can come back and smoke weed all day. It should be I can come back, live cheaply, accumulate some funds for a couple months, whatever it is,
and go back out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just this temporary thing.
Like a recharge.
Recharge. Great way of putting it. Rather than just being permanently plugged into the wall.
Yeah.
Just
How are we doing for time? Do we have
we're
time
probably
for one more?
Close to wrap up.
Good question to finish on, I reckon.
All right.
What do you guys think about the saying friends are the family you choose then? Talking about family and how growing out of family that implies that you're going to replace them with something else.
I like that a lot.
You agree?
Yeah.
With that?
I like that a lot. And because chances are your friends are going to be like within a few years of you. Not that I have any objection if they're not. I think it'll be actually pretty cool to get friends, some younger and some older. That'll actually be pretty cool. But in general, your friends are going to be relatively the same. So that's it. You're going to probably, for the most part,
going through the same life stages.
Exactly.
And like we mentioned before, your adult friends are going to be more intentional and more. Your goals are going to be more similar anyway. I suppose as a family, you don't really have at all similar goals as a parent.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, this is where it just gets so messy. Where there's somewhat of the, again, it's not too bad in my personal family and in New Zealand Western culture in general, as it is in some other cultures. But where I don't think there's any need to have this massive attachment to if you don't want to. And I guess again, the classic case of that is someone who goes overseas. That's it. They really take the leap, and then that's it. You might Skype here or there, whatever, and they might come back eventually. But you just go.
Reminds me of the person who left. You say, we'll keep in contact.
But you just don't, because you go on about your life. That's it. You're not thinking.
I've said that a couple of times to people in workplaces. I'll be back, and then I fully intended to. I wasn't lying.
Yeah,
and I was like, I am never there. I'd have to make a real special trip, and it's not worth it.
Carry on with your life, and I guess, and more extreme example is once if you get married and you have children, then that becomes your family. That's going to be. You're going to have way more
repeat the cycle.
You're going to have way more emotional investment in that family than you are with your siblings and your parents. And again, you can stay in contact and all that. And if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't think there's.
I agree with that sentiment. Just to finish on, I think it's true. Personally, maybe it's just a culture thing, but I still see the value in family and family relationships. And I think it's also knowing that my parents are just getting on. It's like that's a finite amount of time. So maybe that's what it is, the fear of death, or them dying.
And I think potentially, again, I'm speaking from a male perspective.
That's true.
Perhaps a fairly, aggressive male perspective. I'm like, it might be different for females at these relationships. I say, like, one of my sisters, she wants more of that deep family connection and stuff like that, whereas I'm not so worried. And that could be a difference where because it's the traditional man goes out and again, all these images are coming to my head 100 years ago, getting on a ship, sailing around the world, forging your own path sort of thing. Obviously maybe it's it's certainly viewed upon in a negative light here, but a colonizer, someone who leaves from Scotland, our ancestors, certainly my ancestors leave from Ireland, Scotland, they leave their family behind and they come over here. And back then you couldn't stay, you could write a letter maybe, but that's it. You go on and
even make it to them.
Yeah, exactly. You go on and forge your own path. And again, in most cases it's males who do that, and then they come and they marry women here. And you can look at them in Chinese gold miners. All the men came. They didn't bring women.
Hmm.
And so, perhaps, it is me coming from a very masculine point where I'm like, I'm forging my own path.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
Cool.
I don't know.
I agree too about the friends of the family you choose.
Yeah, I think that's,
But, yeah, I mean, obviously they never exactly, it's always going to be a special, just because of the history, their family's going to have a special category of its own. But, in terms of moving
That
forward and progressing and
baggage as
forging.
well, I think.
Yeah, equally. Cool.
All right.
Therapeutic,
Sweet.
eh?
Another
good
counsel in the bag.
Sick.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We haven't got a topic for next week, so...
I think we did.
Oh, do we?
We had two ideas
I
last
can't
time.
remember what it was now.
Oh, well, we'll have to choose one of them anyway, and we'll come back to you. But that
have
wraps
nice
up,
showers, everyone.
wraps up episode 25, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Deuces.
Peace out.